I've got a question. I'm considering moving our marketing side of things off to a third party.
Yep.
So, for example, looking at either the AdWords or the Facebook, haven't decided which one yet. But their minimum, the people I'm considering going to, their minimum spend is about double or triple what I spend at the moment, for example, on Google AdWords.
Okay.
So obviously there's a risk involved in that for me when I look at the current cash flow, etc. Because it's a big jump.
Give me some numbers, Stephen. What would you spend on ad spend on your own when you didn't have a third party?
I spend at the moment about $500-600.
Okay.
A month.
And these guys want you to spend.
It's about $2,000 to $2,500.
Is that including their management fee, or is that just ad spend?
Yeah, that's including management fee.
How much of that 2 to 2.5 is management fee?
I actually don't know, because I've been given these figures by a friend of both of ours as to what the numbers are. So I'm looking, before I start digging, I'm looking at, basically, I don't want to start wasting my time making calls without doing my research first as to whether it's worth me doing it or not.
The $600 that you're spending right now yourself, are you able to track whether that is producing leads that turn into customers, and is that $600 profitable?
Yes, I can. We're an e-commerce company, so obviously we track conversion rates and stuff like that.
So what would you say? What would you say that $600 brings in for you on a month on average?
I can give you a percentage figure. It brings in about 30% of our income online.
Okay.
Which amounts to probably, in the last month, that will probably be about $2,000 to $3,000 profit.
Okay. Profit. Okay. So $600,000 on AdWords brings you $2,000 profit.
So $600 AdWords.
600 AdWords brings you in about a $2,000 profit minimum.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's good. I wanted to check those numbers work, but you'd never scale AdWords until you can get it to work. Like if you're spending 600 and it doesn't work, you'd never scale it. Okay, so we've ticked that box. The other thing is, what are they going to do that you don't know? Like, do you feel like is there a whole bunch of stuff you're not doing that you want to do? Like, what's the reason for going to a third party?
Partly is management time, time to manage it. Obviously, we've been very, very quickly growing as a business over the last couple of months. We're still projecting upwards, which is really good, but it just means now that my time is even more of the essence. So I'm not getting to spend the time on AdWords that I used to. So to do the tweaking and things like that, rewriting of the ads, searching out new keywords that people are going to be using, etc. I'm not getting that same time I used to get. Okay. That's the reason why I'm looking at.
So that's fine. That's fine. I guess I just want to. I'm just trying to explore a case so that we can get some specific advice. Here's the way I look at this. Right. I mean, obviously you could go all in $2,500, and hopefully your third party provider do a better job than you do. Right. That would be great. But part of me thinks, well, hang on a minute. In Stephen's week, there's probably 2 or 3 hours in there where Stephen's doing $20 an hour tasks. Right. Like really low end stuff in his business. So I'm like, why don't we just pay someone $20 an hour for 3 hours a week, right? And then you then have now got 2 to 3 hours a week of time to do a better job with AdWords. You know, we're talking here about adding $250 a month, not 1,900. And then you can do it. Like, I mean, I'm all for giving it to a third party, but I kind of think to myself, well, if you can spend 600 and make $2.5 grand, why don't you see if you can spend 900 and get, 33% more sales? There are two different ways to go. One of them is to scale in sections and spend, well, I'm spending 600, can I spend 900 and get 50% more, or can I spend 1,200 and get double the sales? If you're not going to have the time, if you're definitely not going to have the time to do any kind of research, then palm it off to a third party. If there's another way for you to get the time to do the research, like give work to somebody else, then I would recommend you do it yourself. And the reason why I say that is because no one, it's super scary for me, the amount of third party providers who who can pull the wool over the eyes of their customers, especially in the social/digital space. And the way you get around that is not to never use them, it's to know enough that they can't pull the wool over your eyes. So by getting in there and growing it yourself, you're going to learn so much that then maybe you palm it to somebody else. And then when they send you flashy PowerPoints telling you everything's okay, you'll be able to call BS on it because you'll know it enough, right? So that's just one way to go because it concerns me a little bit. If you already feel like you know enough to be able to hold them to account, jump in now with them. But you know, you'd have to see a really big jump in sales. You'd have to see a 5x jump in sales to justify even breaking even on the spend. So I guess I'd be having that chat with them and saying, what are your expectations?
Yeah. And how are you going to do it? Because obviously I know enough information and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
But if you don't go down that avenue, you could probably achieve 50% growth on your AdWords return just by having the discipline of finding 2 hours a week to work on AdWords.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. Bless you, buddy.
I think that's answered my question.
Cheers, Stephen.
Appreciate it. Cheers, mate. Bye.
So I'm all for third-party providers, but just not naively is what I see far too much of, okay? Got to be able to hold them to account, and to be able to do that, you've got to know what's going on.